Now, this particular ship is called the X-6. And as I've said, it is a G-class runner, having reached the 7th level of space and time transference. Now, the X-6 will generate from 7 to 77, a possible 77 gigawatts of electromagnetic flux emanating from the hydrogen-fed fusion core. This creates an electromagnetic bubble around the ship that ultimately separates it from our laws of quantum physics, so to speak. Let me try and give you a simple example. For instance, even as I speak to you, we are sitting on a low-yield fusion core, which is the Earth itself. Now, we are heading toward sunrise at roughly 1,000 miles per hour, according to the revolution of this Earth. Yet, it is midway, it is early winter, but we are heading toward springtime. We are hurtling around the sun at some 88,000 miles per hour, yet we feel no perceptible sense of motion and what have you. Now, the best thing I can tell you is that do your mathematics and reduce it backwards and encapsulate it in ship form, and you are literally standing on an object which is always in the now, even though space is moving around you. Thus, it is not subject to the g-forces of speed, resistance, and things of this nature because of the electromagnetic field that's generated around it. Now, as with our technologies here on Earth, we have economy cars, we have mopeds, we have economy cars, we have luxury cars, we have muscle cars, then we have souped-up cars and things of this nature. Consider that this would be the Ferrari of the Beyonce's technology, or something of that nature, in that, in order to generate 77 gigawatts, it will be capable of actually vibrationally creating its own hyperspace tunnel or quantum window. Some say Stargate. Nonetheless, these are just variables of a common denominator when it comes to running through time and space. Now, you wonder why, generally, when a ship has set down at some location within our stratosphere, that the grass beneath it, and if there are trees close around, at least on the side facing the ship, the branches tend to go dead and be devoid of life and what have you. Now, let me apprise you of the fact that though their technology far, far exceeds our own, it is not perfect. Now, should you bring an X-6 to a resting position, so to speak, moored by the 3 flexible legs, in order to keep the fusion core cooking like on idle or what have you, it may be necessary for her to generate a consistent at least 7 gigawatts of electromagnetic flux. This is not only to hold her gravitationally still at that position, but also to keep her hot enough until, if she has to abscond the scenery or escape the madness of jets running after her with armed missiles and things of this nature, she doesn't have to utilize the processes of firing it up again, simply because she can attain within a 10-second span of time some 10,000 nautical aerial miles speed within 10 seconds from 7 gigawatt flux, so to speak. Tan flies an X-6. I've always been picked up in an X-6. I find the technology to be quite fascinating, really. Now, the ship is composed of, I believe, certain metallurgic compositors consisting of aluminoids, platinum, copper, perhaps nickel, gold, and which has been incorporated into acrylics, or mayhaps may be impregnated by pure carbon dust, such as diamond or something of this nature. Okay, now you pick up a nugget of gold. You say, wow, Rick, you pick up a nugget of gold. You look at the gold. It's looking yellow to you. Nonetheless, if you have to process the means and absolute zero gravity and the machinery to separate all the impurities from this gold nugget that you have in your hand, then if you held it up prismatically, you could almost see through it because it would be translucent in its purest form. They are able to reach this level. On Earth, we're not yet able to do this. Reach this level of purity in metallurgic compositors. That means that the yellowness in the gold is impurities. You see, it may be sulfurzoid, ammoniates, or zinc, or something of this nature. Should you get a diamond out of the North African mines or the mines of Solomon, and this diamond appears to be somewhat golden inside, it is because in the process, the geodesic process that formed this carbon, it picked up traces of boron, which gives it a kind of a golden hue or something of this nature, thus explaining the lights that reflects the composture of the air around and what have you. You understand? Therefore, they are able to, by utilizing certain vibrations, to go to purity max, so to speak. That is, by separating the molecules of this pure metal to make the ships literally invisible to the naked eye, as well as to radar or what have you, and things of this nature. So, in order to enter hyperspace, the ship must be equipped with state-of-the-art time-space chronometer. Of course, that is a simple name for it. It's something like more like time-space spatial dimensional displacement or something of that nature. But let's just stick to time-space chronometer, okay? And this has to be calibrated to such a great extent as to where there cannot be a 1/100th of a second disparity for the time period that you're shooting for, so to speak. For instance, 1 nanosecond variable can conceivably put you hours before, or at least a day or two before the actual event that you've traveled back in time to see. This is how precise they must be. As time goes by, we will get into the time-space chronometer machine itself, which I find very fascinating, in that it does not use, as our odometer does, resistance or revolutions and things of this nature to measure the speed. It quite literally measures the speed taken from a data bank of carbon dating. For instance, if I've got a rock that is 3 billion years of age, it has a certain carbon count or radiation count for the carbon dating of that time. If in the incident I have materials from all coming back from the tertiary, all the way through the Precambrian, Cambrian, Mesozoic, and things of this nature, eras of the evolution of the Earth, then I can pretty well plot down, using the atomic count of the materials, exactly where I want to get off if I'm traveling through hyperspace. You see what I mean? And what have you. So the time-space chronometer must use this materials. Now it takes more than simply counting, because when you achieve speed infinity, which is roughly 100 times the speed of light as we measure time running across the bins, the dimensional bins and the light bins in the time factor, well, you can no longer rely on any known electronic instrumentation to calibrate anymore. It is then it then goes to a manual situation based upon something like the workings of a super Swiss watch or something of this nature. Click, 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 or so to speak, because it is counting the atoms back, feeding them into it. Now, the neurotronic brain of the computer disengages from all electronic measurements and counts the atoms, and thus kicking in to kick you out at a certain given time. And I believe that when we went back to watch the battles of some of the battles of Alexander, we may have been a couple of hours early or something of that nature. So they are pretty precise. You see what I mean? Now, when Tan is out gathering information and data within the stratosphere of this planet or any other planet that is manned by beings who may be capable, by utilizing aerial craft, missiles, and particle beams and things of this nature to harm the X-6. He is accompanied by 3 X-4s. Now these are lesser versions or smaller versions, being somewhere in the vicinity of 14 feet across, having a crew of 2 men, 2 spacemen, so to speak. These accompany the X-6 more or less as the fighter pilots would accompany a greater ship or something of this nature to protect it from harm. Now the X-4, its technology, because it is not equipped with the very complex neurotonic time-space chronometers on the scale of the X-6, is not capable of entering hyperspace themselves, though they may reach a level of near light natural speed before atomic dispersal.